Well, welcome everybody, and I am here with Jim McMurray, and he is the son of James or Jim McMurray. And Jim is going to be inducted, not this Jim, his dad is going to be inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. And we're going to just talk a little bit about your dad's career, Jim. I guess he used to like to follow Irwin Schick around a little bit back in the early days, and that's more or less how he got started.
Yes, he was following Irwin Schick in the days when he was racing, and my dad got interested in racing after that.
But that was more or less where the flame got lit.
That's where the flame got lit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that had to be a pretty good one because boy, old Irwin was quite a racer on his own.
Yes, he was.
And a good engine builder from what I've heard.
Yes, he was. I was about very small when I first met Irvin, and still good friends with him to this day.
Oh, really? Okay, good,
yes.
Good deal. How old is Irwin now? You've got to be getting up there pretty good, doesn't he?
I'm not sure how old he is.
70-something at least?
I'd say that he's upper 70s, yes.
In 1958, your dad comes out with a car. It's a 39 Chevy Coupe, and this is his first race car. And he really enjoys the sport because I think part of it for him was that the family could be involved in this type of sport.
Yes, I remember that car. I was pretty young, but I still remember the car. After he had raced it, he kept it for a long time. And the whole family went to racing all the time when Dad went racing.
Mm-hmm. It was a family sport for all of you.
Absolutely, it was a family sport.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's kind of clarify this 39 Chevy Coupe. Basically, back in those days, what they did was they more or less took the fenders off, took out the glass, and they were ready to go.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what I remember it sitting there after he had raced. Like I said, I was very young, but I remember the car sitting there, and I remember looking at it all over when I was growing up.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, there was no glass, just roll bars and some little bitty tires on it.
Little O'Neill things, I'm sure.
Yes.
You have to wonder how they even got around the tracks in those days.
Exactly.
With those kind of tires on there. Plus, I'm trying to remember one of the other inductees that I talked to said that they had sidewalls like boards.
Right, yeah. Yes.
Really stiff. In 63, your dad, he finally makes his own car, and he has the chassis, builds the chassis, and then has a body that's cut down to fit the car. I mean, this is so classic of the cars of that era. More or less, they started with a frame and went from there. But it really kind of, for that time frame, a pretty sophisticated car. Quick change rear end, had the enclosed drive shaft, and the leaf spring front end. I'm sure he was probably pretty proud of that. Of course, also a 283 Chevy also was the power plant for that.
Yes, it was. Yes, and it was he kept that car all the way up until he passed away, and so that's quite some time. From 63 to 92 is a long time.
Yeah.
But he would never get rid of it.
It sounds like me. I've got some old RC cars, man. I can't part with them. Won too many races, had too many good times, and I'm sure it was the same thing for him.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. How old were you about this time frame? Do you remember him building the car? Or?
Yes, I was about 10 years old. About 10 years old at that time.
Yeah. Well, now, had he had any mechanical experience or educational experience in that field, or was this just something that he kind of did on the fly and kind of learned as he went?
Well, he was a mechanic and by trade, and he taught me a lot. And naturally, you always learn a whole lot as you do these things.
Mm-hmm. So. Kind of picked it up as he went.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In 1965, your dad gets just a little exotic with things, and he builds an all-aluminum car. And I presume the reason for going with the aluminum was for the weight.
Yes, it was for the weight, and he knew some things about aluminum, and it was a very strong car. Very strong car.
I was going to say, that was going to be my next question. I was just curious to see how the aluminum car held up to all the rigors of local short track racing, because I mean, they really take a pounding. I mean, especially a little track like Olympic, where if I remember correctly, it was concrete walls all the way around.
Well, you know, the aluminum, when you think of aluminum, you think of it as a soft metal. but there's different grades of aluminum, and the aluminum that he chose was really strong or stronger than metal.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Well, that kind of brings me up to two more questions. Was one of them, first of all, where did he get the aluminum? And the second one is, do you know who did all the welding, or I presume Healy arcing on the car?
Yes, I vaguely remember that, but I remember him welding along with some other people that came by and helped us, and naturally selecting the grade of the aluminum and things like that. But I remember after the car was built that it got hit a couple of times, and nothing on there that was aluminum bent. Nothing bent, nothing broke. The metal did bend and it did break.
Now, was this a car that had a I'm going to say steel frame?
No, it had aluminum frame. The only thing that was steel was the rear axle and the front axle.
Okay, so this was a totally tubular car.
It was made of an aluminum I-beam, more than tubular.
Oh, okay. All right. I was still, I just couldn't quite picture it, and I know I've seen the car because it was out at Lakeside, if I remember right.
Yes.
One time several years ago.
Right after he died, I took it out
Did
there
you? Okay.
and showed it.
For a couple of years, your dad will run that car at Riverside, and I'm sure something that had to have been time-consuming was at Riverside. Now, you ran it with a 307 and a carburetor, but then when you went to go over to Olympic, you had to switch it over to a fuel-injected 327. How much time and work was involved in doing that? 'Cause now you're getting up in age a little bit here too, so you're probably helping him out quite a bit on the car.
Oh yeah, I remember Friday nights the car was ready to go to Riverside, and we ran a carburetor class there, 307 4-barrel, and then Sundays we ran at Olympic Stadium, which was fuel injection class, and so we had to switch engines every Saturday, Sunday morning. Every Sunday morning we switched engines.
Uh-huh. And about how long did that take?
I'd say it probably took 4 hours to drain the fuel and to switch engines.
Yeah. I was going to say you had to change fuel too. I never even thought about that.
Yes.
You had to go from gas probably to alcohol.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of fun. Aren't you glad maybe you weren't doing 3 tracks?
Well, we got pretty good at it.
I was going to say the more you did it, probably the easier it got.
Yep.
Yeah. And now, did your dad have a shop or?
We had a garage behind the house that we worked in.
Uh-huh.
That's where we did all of our work on the race car.
Okay, all right. For a couple of years, your dad will run that car, and then later he decides to move on into the sprint cars.
Yes.
And he builds a sprint car, and he starts running that at Lakeside, Marshall, Sedalia, Knoxville, but still, on the same token, he's still running the aluminum car at Riverside.
Yes. We wanted to be competitive at Riverside, as well as the options of running at Marshall, Knoxville, and Sedalia, and Marshall and Olympic.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of super modified racing back then.
I was going to say it's much different than what it is today. I mean, there are so many classes today, and I guess that's to accommodate people that are coming into racing, try and get them that experience and work their way up. But back then, basically, it was, like you say, super modified, sprints, few late models, but I mean, that was about it. There wasn't no street stocks or modifieds or any of that.
No, it was the stock cars had their own class, and we had the open wheel cars had a carburetor class, and the super modified had the fuel injection class. And Riverside, about the only one that I remember that we ran the carburetor at.
Yeah. There was one race in particular that you were telling me about when we talked on the phone the other day about when your dad was running, and I'm trying to remember from memory. I think it was Riverside, but you said he broke a left front spindle. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was down in the pits, and he was about a front straightaway ahead of the pack, and he was in a heat race. And when he came out of number 4 turn, getting ready to accelerate, the left front spindle broke on it, which gave him no brakes because it broke the brake line. But as he got down to number one turn, he realized that he's the one that broke the spindle and lost the tire. So he trumped the accelerator and picked the front end up and scooted through the dirt. By the time he got around to number 4 turn to come into the pits, they dropped a green flag on him, and he trumped it again. Well, he got through the whole race and only lost 2 spots.
I think one of his fellow competitors of the day had some type of remark. You said Gibson.
That was Jack Gibson, yeah. Jack Gibson told Dad that he told him that hard enough to catch him on 4 tires, let alone 3.
Quite a compliment to be able to go out and continue to do that and be able to finish with 3 wheels. It just shows that competitive nature of racers of that day. They never quit, they never gave up.
Absolutely.
They just went on, and we are too. In 1967, in what you would probably call a sprint car today, I mean, it was probably truly built in the fashion of a sprint car today, full tubular chassis.
Yes.
And more of an upright car than what the super modifieds were, but still wingless.
Yes.
Okay. He's still running Lakeside, Marshall, Knoxville. And is there any memories that you have in particular of those times when your dad was running? I mean, I know he ran at the Nationals too.
Yes, I remember a lot of different times when he raced and different episodes, and he was racing at Marshall one time, and he was just out there for hot laps, and I mean, he was just really moving along, and I thought we was going to have a really good night. And so he was coming into the pits, and he was coasting, and when he came up to the trailer, the engine wasn't running, and I said, "What happened?" He says, "I think I broke a crankshaft."
Oh my!
Yeah, and I thought, well, that was the night that we was really going to go.
You went home.
And we went home instead. Yeah.
Kind of getting back to your dad running at Knoxville. I'm sure he ran the Nationals. How did he do at the Nationals? Do you have any luck up there? I mean, it was some tough competition. I mean, it was the best guys here around the Midwest, plus a few others that came in and raced. I mean, it was the best of the best for what there was at the time.
It was the best of the best out there. It was an amazing race to watch. My dad made the B feature a couple of times and raced in it, but we always stayed around and watched everybody else race. And it was exciting. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go dirt track race in Knoxville, Iowa, was a great place to go.
Yeah. And that was in the days when the modified, super modifieds, and the sprints ran together.
Yes.
It was before and wingless. I always forget that.
Yes.
Which to me is just some terrific racing to watch. I don't care where you are. Take them wings off and go for it. In 1968 to 70, your dad's racing career starts to wind down just a little bit, but he's still a regular at 3 of the area tracks. By now, you are wrenching on the car. You're pretty much taking care of the car. Your dad's just driving. How did that go for you and your dad?
I thought it went pretty well. He was going to go into business for himself, and he thought it was time for him to quit racing. And I just got out of high school, and so I took the car, and me and a friend of mine and my cousin got to wrenching on the car and got it all ready for him and talked him into racing. So he decided to go racing one more year. And we kept the car up, and he drove.
Now this was a sprint car?
Yes.
Upright sprint car?
Yes.
Okay. You related one story to me that you said kind of learned you a lesson.
Yes.
About one day he came over to look at the car before you were going to the track.
He warned me from the beginning that if the car wasn't ready to race, that he wouldn't race it. And I thought I had the car all done, but he found something wrong with it and said he wouldn't race it that night. So I said I could fix it in a few minutes, and he said no. So he taught me a lesson.
Yeah. One of those things about, of course, I guess if I was climbing in one of them,
yes.
I would want it to be, like you say, ready. No,
yes.
No shortcuts, no.
Absolutely. He taught me a lesson.
Yeah. Did your dad have any aspirations of getting out of the local racing scene and maybe touring with IMCA or USAC, or even the big step like so many other area drivers of that time were doing, trying to make it on into Indianapolis?
Oh, there's no doubt that he wanted to go higher. You know, he talked about NASCAR a time or two, but you know, I think that when you've got a family and you've got a business to run, I don't think there's much time for going beyond in that sport. You know, so I think that's where he ended it at.
Yeah, and like so many guys of this era, they were on a budget, and it really sounds like your dad too was really family oriented, and the family came first.
Absolutely. Yes.
And when you're doing that, that's pretty tough to go up to the next level to try and get on. In the end, I guess you could say that your dad had to stop because of, like you say, starting a business, taking care of the family. Are there any, looking back over those years, are there any in particular memories that you have or that your dad related to you about racing of that era that you could tell us about?
Well, he was always, he always believed in bringing the car home safe.
Mm-hmm.
And what, as a family, we've never done without to have the racing.
Mm-hmm.
Racing was always second. But as a family, we always went to racing together, all four of us.
Yeah.
And we all enjoyed it.
Now you say four of you, your mom, sister?
My sister, myself, and my mom, my dad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jim, let me congratulate you and your family on your dad's induction into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame. I know it has to be a pretty good deal.
Yes, it is. He would be very proud of this moment.
Yeah. As many of them are, but okay. Folks, that's going to wrap it up as we've been here with Jim McMurray, the son of Jim or James McMurray, however you want to go with that. But that's going to wrap it up here for this interview with Jim McMurray, as his dad, James, is going to be inducted into the C.A.R.B Hall of Fame.